The time is 7 p.m. My name is Lester Finkel. Sitting this evening are Kevin Petak and Michael Becketts. I will lead us in the moment of silence and Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next agenda item is approval of the agenda. Seeing no changes to the agenda, would anyone care to make a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Motion, second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We have the adoption of minutes from our April 10th, 2024 meeting. I did not see any edits. Did anyone else see any edits?
I did see one potential edit at the bottom of page 1 where it says fiscal year 2615. Is that correct?
That's probably
I think
25.
I think that should be fiscal year 26, right? For the
First
holiday
page.
lights.
Last line, first page.
Last line, first page. For the holiday lights, city holiday lights.
Oh, push back to, I'll check
20
that.
fiscal
Yeah,
year 26.
Probably,
Yeah.
yes, because if it was 25, it would be next year, so, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, instead of 2615. Right.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. No other edits? Okay, thank you. Then I'll ask for a motion to adopt the meeting minutes from April 10th, 2024 as amended.
So moved.
Motion, second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. I do not see any members of the public present this evening to speak, so we'll move on to our business. We have two items this evening, one presentation and one discussion. Our first item, 7A, is a presentation, transportation program updates.
Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, good evening. My name is Steve Hall. I'm the Transportation Program Manager here in Manassas Park. Along with me tonight, I do have Dr. Abdul Altherwi, recently hooded with his PhD in Environmental and Civil Engineering from Catholic University. So Abdul's the newest member of our team, started with us on March 11th, and we've really been bringing Abdul up to speed, coordinating on a lot of projects, and he's starting to take the reins on some of them. So glad to have him on the team, and as most of you know, I've been around, it'll be 3 years in July, so a lot of accomplishments you'll hear of tonight, and a lot of active projects. So what I'm going to do this evening is give you all an update on the status of a number of projects since I've come to the city. We're going to talk about some studies, some reports, some plans that are active. My portfolio, if you will, I break down kind of with city manager and governing body priorities because they come through and they're kind of A1, and then A2 is kind of the regular transportation projects that are still a priority, but obviously they kind of fall into line accordingly. As you likely know, we have received a lot of grant money through the transportation program, and I'll give you a quick overview of that. And please, I'd like to consider this informal, so any questions you might have along the way, feel free to shoot, and then we'll still have some time at the end if you'd like. This is a fairly long presentation. I'm going to try to abbreviate it a bit and get you guys out of here, but again, this is for you, so any questions you have, please. I've included a number of hyperlinks in the presentation, so electronically you received this. If you want to click on anything, feel free. And I should have also said that anything you have additional questions on or want to see more material on, I can share with you. You hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So the transportation and mobility chapter of the comprehensive plan, You may hear a little bit later tonight, we're preparing probably to do a comprehensive plan update. That was done not too long ago. It was just before my time, but given the studies and activities that have taken place, it could be updated with some of the information that we've done since I've arrived here. That's the local planning related transportation plan. Transaction is the Northern Virginia's Transportation Authority. That is the regional plan for Northern Virginia, multimodal projects. Any project that appears in transaction is eligible for 70% funding. Previously, we did not have any projects in transaction. We now have 13. So in the biennial cycle of the 6-year plan update with NVTA, we'll be eligible to apply for any of those 13 projects that are included with the plan. And we did have an application submitted last year for phase 2 of the Innovative Intersections project, even though that is entirely within Prince William County. We took the lead on the first phase, and again, we took the lead on the second phase of the application, and it's been recommended for approval, and that's $40 million. So not official, but recommended, and we'll see what the NVTA board decides to do. So that's tremendous. Council of Governments is our local planning district commission. There's a number of them in Virginia. They have a plan called Visualize 2050. That's for the metropolitan Washington region. We have projects included in that, and then Virginia, the Commonwealth, has its own plan, the VTrans plan. Again, having our plans and having our projects included in these documents opens up funding avenues that weren't previously available. So what we've done is we have an urban development area that's essentially Park Central. By having that, we now have what's called a midterm needs layer. That's, if you click on the link, you can see the interactive map. And it highlights needs such as crosswalks, such as sidewalk, pedestrian safety, bicycle, things of that nature that are now open for application to funds through VDOT. We recently completed the Arborist Streetscape Plan and Report. A lot of the activity you see out here is implementing that plan, and the report is available. The active transportation plan itself has been completed not long ago. We hope to incorporate that in its either entirety or a portion of that in the comp plan update when we move forward with that. And then, as you see, comp plan update, FY25, we want to incorporate all of our projects into our local comp plan chapter one way or another. A lot of studies, you'll see a theme here with the whole Manassas Drive. It's our key corridor, so bisects the city, and as such, you know, we have some issues on the corridor that we need to assess. We recently finished a traffic calming speed analysis study that is in the Blooms neighborhood. Recommendation that came forward from that study was to install 2 series of speed humps between Carondelet and Arnie Court, along with some signals, traffic speed indicator signage on each side of the road. You know, folks that come through Blooms have a tendency, based on some of the data we did gather as part of the study, to pick up some speed through that area. That was one item that was recommended. The governing body wanted to move forward with it, but worth noting, we're going to be doing a corridor study on the 5th bullet that's actually gotten kicked off and is underway. It's going to try to compile everything that we've done in the corridor into one concise document. We're also going to look at the potential for a road diet in that section of Blooms along Manassas Drive that would really be aimed at reducing the road width, the lane width, providing some bicycle lanes, and essentially by doing so, it's been documented that that can serve to reduce traffic speed as well. Smaller lane width, bicyclists, etc. So we may move forward with the humps, we may not, that's to be determined. That study hopefully should be done by later this year. We are in the process of wrapping up a lighting analysis on Manassas Drive. That's the entire corridor. I've never been part of a photometric analysis. It's actually an engineering study. Has a site plan, a roll plot, very long sheet that identifies all of the streetlight infrastructure along the corridor. One of the things that we get pretty often are complaints, well, this intersection is dark, this bulb is out. Why can't we get a light here? Why can't we get a light there? So what we've done up until now is really a piecemeal approach. As we hear about a complaint, we address it. We just put a new light up at Mosby and Old Centerville Road, I believe it was. We work closely with Novec. This actually analyzed the light shed. It looked at all the existing inventory out there along Manassas Drive, looked at the light shed, the amount of the illumination that each light omits, and where are the gaps. So it's a little above my head. He's the brains, I'm the brawn, I guess, but Abdul could probably explain it a little better. But what it looks like is it's a series of, what's the term I'm looking for? Basically, the light shed evaporates as you go further away from the light. We're looking at where essentially there's completely dark spaces. And what we want to do is prioritize, from a public safety perspective, where we need to either put new poles or upgrade from the old high-pressure sodium to the LED bulbs. That's wrapping up. We're finalizing the cost estimate, and we're hoping to present that to you jointly with the governing body in the next month or two. We're in the middle of a sidewalk analysis, so similar to our paving program where we have a laundry list of roads and a ranking of condition. We want to do something similar with sidewalks to help us prioritize repairs each year. Right now, our concrete repairs are ongoing. I believe they're in the eastern part of the city now. I'd have to check with Public Works, but we finished one side of the city. We're moving forward to the other. We do this annually, having a documented objective scoring criteria to tackle these concrete improvements is something that we'd like to hang our hat on moving forward. This is why we did this repair and not this one. We've done 2 highway safety improvement program reports back in 2022 and 2023. Those were done through pro bono technical assistance through VDOT. Because we're a small locality, we don't have a lot of resources. Some of the bigger localities, counties do. We do take advantage of free technical assistance whenever we can get it. So we did have consultants, VDOT on-call consultants, prepared these reports for us that fed into grant applications, and we've successfully been awarded the HSIP application from 2022. We're in the design phase of that right now. That was about a $1.4 million project. And then the 2023 application is also, it's included in the Commonwealth's budget, so we're hopeful to get that. That essentially supplements the other HSIP project. So the HSIP Highway Safety Improvement Program, it's really aimed at pedestrian safety, and what we have are sidewalk, crosswalk, ADA ramp improvements, enhanced visibility for pedestrians, signage. We also have a few signal upgrades. We have some left turn signals where none exist. So the engineer right now is compiling all the data. We've already submitted 30% plans to VDOT that they've approved. So things are moving forward. Abdul, one of the big tasks he's taken on is the Manassas Drive corridor study. I previously alluded to what we really want to do is compile everything that we've already done. Instead of having 20 studies everywhere, this will end up compiling all of that. But there's a handful of new items within that study also. We're going to reassess some of the speeding in certain areas. We've had some concerns about Denver Drive, concerns about Scott Drive and the one-way traffic. So we're going to assess a handful of other studies a handful of other projects through this study that are kind of appendages of Manassas Drive, if you will. So we're going to look at Scott, we're going to look at Denver, we're going to look at speeding. That kicked off on May 14th, and we're going to be moving forward with that. And then one unique item about all of these studies is I've been pushing, and to date, we've gotten layers, GIS layers for pretty much everything that we've done. One of the things I envision in the future is us kind of moving towards an asset management program where we can do it all via GIS. We don't have to kind of look in records. We don't have to go back to notes. When did we replace this bulb? When did we remove this sign and put up a new sign? When did we fix this segment of sidewalk? When did we fix this road? As of now, I have to do a little digging, maybe call Public Works, but eventually, moving forward, hopefully we'll have layers for all of our assets in the city from a transportation perspective. If someone runs over a sign, if a light goes out, someone can go in, create a ticket. Oh, boom, this light was updated on X date. This sign was put up on X date. It helps us better track our inventory. So and this is really gonna take a while if I don't stop rambling so much. A couple other studies, reverse angle parking. Actually, we just had our kickoff meeting for that. Oh, I'm sorry, this was a study that was done a while ago by Dewberry that analyzed parking solutions for Manassas Drive that could provide us additional parking spaces. We decided on the reverse angle parking. It was presented to the governing body. We had a kickoff meeting today with the firm that's going to be doing the design for that.
Can you explain the term reverse angled? What does that mean?
Sure.
per se?
I can do my best. So reverse angled, essentially, as you pull down the street, you would pull into any street. In this instance, you'd be coming down Manassas Drive from Euclid, coming down the hill. You would pull into a restricted zone that, as it stands today, we're anticipating would be 10 feet wide. You would pull into that restricted zone off the travel lanes, and then you would reverse into a parking spot.
Gotcha.
As opposed to front-end angled parallel parking, you would reverse in and then be able to pull straight out. Again, to maximize parking, that this was one of the things that was looked at. So we did hire an engineer. They're going to be doing the design right now, and it is something that's desired by the owners of the Park 170 development. So we're going to be moving forward with that. You guys have probably noticed the high-speed zones across the city. You love them or hate them. They're up there. That wasn't my doing, but I did oversee the analysis. The PD went out and did a number of speed gathering activities and traffic counts, and we determined the areas that have the highest rates of speed in the city. This was a couple years ago. Recommended to the governing body, and they said this is what we're going to do in residential districts. So we've accomplished that. The Vision Zero plan, we got funded through the United States Department of Transportation with Prince William County as an overall action plan. The county wants to do approaching zero deaths and serious injuries just because of the expansive space of the county, the number of roads, number of injuries. We haven't had a fatality on our roads in quite some time. So what we're doing is a Vision Zero, and the vision of zero is zero deaths and serious injuries on our city streets. We have completed a complete streets assessment that really set the framework for a lot of what we're doing now on Manassas Drive in Park Central. Really interesting study. We've done a study for Owens and Euclid, reconstructing that intersection in full. If you've driven down, you'll probably see we recently patched it, but that's something we've had to do almost every other year, if not every year, because of the trucks that go down towards the Connor Center, hit the brakes, and it does push the asphalt up, and before you know it, it becomes a pretty bad pothole. We're going to look to do a full concrete intersection replacement. It's going to be a traffic nightmare for a brief period of time, but it's going to be a much better experience when it's done. And then eventually we're going to be developing a shared mobility program. This was presented to the governing body a while ago, and it's kind of been on the back burner, but it'll be coming back soon. Shared mobility being e-scooters, e-bikes, things of that nature.
You skipped the no commercial parking analysis.
I certainly did. Thank you. I apologize. No commercial parking analysis was another study we completed a couple years ago. Well, no, it wasn't that long even, probably a year and a half, that looked at all of our residential districts. As you guys know, there's been a push to move forward and towards not having unregistered or large commercial vehicles on city streets, for a number of reasons, for aesthetics, for quality of life, things of that nature. So that was an informed effort. There's really nothing we do in the transportation world, at least, as I see it, that we just do on a whim. If it's a pothole, we'll fix it. But if it's a major decision, we want to be informed. So we did hire a firm to do an analysis of what it would look like in the city if we did no commercial parking in residential areas. So they started by assessing the residential zoning districts, and they looked at, okay, if we did a sign every 50 feet, how many signs would we have? This was all done in GIS again, and we ended up with like 7,500 no commercial parking signs. It was like, wow, this is a total non-starter. We can't do 7,500 signs. So we revisited that, and then what the end recommendation was that the spacing between the signs varies. but it's within sight distance of another sign. So in theory, it would hold up in court if we had to issue a ticket, and then we engaged with the PD, our prosecuting attorney, and that was the recommendation. So from there, we ordered, it was about 700 signs. So we went from 7,500 signs to 700 signs. We have a handful of gateway signs as you enter the city that are larger, and hopefully you didn't see social media not long ago. But anyhow, we had a bit of a misspelling. But anyway, that's been rectified, so never fear. And no one noticed it until recently. I never even noticed it. But that's been rectified. So we ended up installing the 700-ish signs. I think it was 12 gateway signs, and it has helped. We have the code amendment now that helps support, what you can and cannot park as a commercial vehicle, and the signage is there. Depending where you fall, you may say, the signage is too much, the signage is not enough. Again, I follow the guidance that I get from those above me in the governing body. This was the guidance as part of cleaning up the city, and I know you all are aware of a lot of the code enforcement activity, and this is part of that. So we feel like it was a solid project, and the biggest success out of all of it was we got a proposal initially for, it was a little over $1 million to do the engineering, to do the analysis, recommendations, to fabricate the signs and install the signs, basically turnkey. And we kind of went back to the city manager at the time and said, look, this seems a bit outrageous. We think we can do this for less. We can use some forces in public works, get us a little bit of help, a couple extra staff, and we can cut this at least in half. And we ended up only spending about $250,000. We saved almost $750,000 by just doing the study and then ordering the signs ourselves and then having our guys install them. So I think a team of 3 spent pretty much 4 months straight installing them all, but we had some savings there. All right, they're the studies. So a lot of projects. Again, the program is kind of broken down. I see it as city manager governing body priorities versus regular transportation projects. We completed Park Street's assessment, the Complete Streets assessment. That kind of gave us the overall guidance for moving forward with a lot of these efforts downtown. There were several goals that were overarching that came out of the study. First of which is addressing gaps in the pedestrian network. As you all know, there's several sidewalks with missing gaps down here. Railroad Drive, on both sides of Railroad Drive as you approach the tracks, neither side has sidewalk. We also do not have a sidewalk as you come down from Euclid and the intersection with Manassas Drive eastbound. There's not a sidewalk on the right-hand side. Now, there are some challenges there with slopes, things of that nature, but we realize that. Those were identified as areas for improvement, and we did successfully get a transportation alternatives grant funded for a sidewalk on the VRE side. So that sidewalk will cross the tracks. It'll be a better crossing for pedestrians. Right now, where none exists, really. So if you were, another big piece of that is it's going to have what we call a switchback ramp that'll essentially zigzag to the surface lot of the VRE for handicapped citizens, residents with disabilities. So it will be fully ADA compliant. Really good project. And again, we're waiting for the budget on the state level to pass so we can get into an agreement with VDOT and get this project underway. And we did get a pro bono consultant, Volker, to help us with that. So that's great. That's over $1 million project. And then we did submit an earmark request to our congressional delegation to get the Euclid Avenue to Bank Street sidewalk funded. So if we can get both of those done, that would be tremendous. We can at least say we have contiguous sidewalk basically from Railroad Drive all the way to Euclid and safe crossings in between. Another big deal downtown is making sure we keep pedestrians safe. With the vision of downtown, we envision having lots and lots of visitors, social capital, people enjoying going back and forth. We realize that we need to prepare for that now before the rush comes, and then, okay, what are we going to do? So the study recommended that we look at the potential of doing a hawk signal, which is a kind of unique and innovative pedestrian signal. You'll see them in some highly urbanized areas, Alexandria, Washington, D.C., they have them. Manassas Park, we may have one. It's like, you know, what they say Paris, New York, Manassas Park. So we actually have gone out and completed design for Volker, with Volker. They won that project. They completed the design and cost estimate, and Abdul's going to be helping as we prepare an invitation for bid to construct this and put it up in FY25. Happy to share those plans with you all, but essentially it'll look a lot like what you see on the screen. It's a mast arm that goes across. It'll be decorative. It's not going to be just a ugly, you know, gray or steel pole. It'll resemble what we have out here on our street lights, so it'll be somewhat decorative as much as it can be, but really the pedestrian will control the signal. They can stop it with a push. I mean, obviously there'll be a quick bit of a countdown to stop vehicles, and this is something we're going to have to do a public outreach campaign on prior to putting this up. So when we put it up, people will probably say, oh, well, you know, you don't have enough people here, and, well, you know, how can you justify this? Well, the direction we're going, we certainly believe we're going to need something like this, and that mid-block crossing is going to really be the center of a lot of activity and a lot of people crossing, and that's where this would be located, the mid-block crossing downtown that does not have a signal. So it's the one past Park Central Plaza, but before Bank Street. Rectangular rapid flashing beacons, our highway safety improvement grant funded those. And then we will also have pedestrian crosswalk and signage improvements that the highway safety improvement grant funded as well. Those are located on the 30% plans. We actually just finished a purchase of 2 speed indicator signs. Abdul was running point on this one. We purchased the signs, we had a few quotes, found a vendor. We have them in-house. We actually just did a site visit yesterday or the day before where we looked at the best location to put them, and what we're going to do is install one as you come down the hill from Euclid. I mean, that's probably the worst of our speeding issues. As you come down that hill, there is a speed table there. It's somewhat effective, but you pull right onto the bank at the corner, and it's 25, and I mean, you don't even have to hit the gas and you'll get to 25. So we've been coordinating with executive staff on the ideal location. We found a location, and we're going to put it up. So I mentioned the hawk signal. That should be going up here in the next few weeks, if I had to guess. If anything, it's a deterrent. We're not going to be issuing tickets from this.
At this time?
At this time, correct. There's always the ability to do that. But it will give you your speed, it'll flash to slow down, and we think it'll be definitely a deterrent along with some of the other recommendations that came out of the Complete Streets study. We're also going to do some pavement markings that have been documented to slow some traffic. That's going to be after we finish the paving in FY27 when the entire downtown hopefully is built out. Another big overall goal of the Complete Streets was enhancing the streetscape. I mentioned the arborist plan and report that were completed. You all have seen the activity, so again, you know, we just don't go tearing out trees and putting in new things. We go by plans, and we had a plan completed. Pannoni was awarded that study. We've completed phase 1 of the activity, which really was the Parks 170 streetscape in front of those buildings. The study identified the trees that were there. It's not that they were the incorrect species, but they weren't properly maintained, and they had gotten completely unruly. It was a nice canopy, but it blocked all of the visibility for new businesses that wanted their signage to be seen. It also, you know, some could say that, you know, it didn't serve the intended purpose of, you know, providing a landscape and transportation context that, you know, it wants people to come. They were just unruly, and we never really did a good job maintaining them. But we have new plants. It's going to take those a while to come in, the new trees, and but we're glad to have that moving forward. That project did involve quite a bit of other activity. We had to demolish some concrete, we had to turn off electrical, we had to turn off water, but the new plantings are coming in. Phase two.
So Steve, I take it the trees are now part of phase two, because I thought they were included in phase one whenever we talked about this before.
Yeah, so phase one, well, it's essentially two separate areas. Well, we have 5 areas, maybe this will be better. Oop. See if I can maybe zoom in on this a little bit more. So the way we ended up breaking this down was into essentially 5 areas. Phase one, what we wanted to do was Park 170, so all the frontage on Park 170, the median across from Park 170, basically everything was going to be taken out, and then everything new would be planted. City Hall, everything in the City Hall vicinity is going to be phase two. So all of the new plantings and trees that
Gotcha.
go, yep, that go around the City Hall complex and in front of the VRE, that as well as at the northernmost portion of this plan, that is the potential for new trees with future residential development. So we're kind of holding on that, but everything in Park Central, in Park 170, excuse me, and that first median, we're completing now. And we do have a construction administration firm, so Pannoni, who did the plan, is helping us oversee Davy. Davy Tree was the contractor that got the bid to install the plants and demolish most of it. So they're helping us oversee that. We've had punch lists. They've identified plants that weren't the width, or I don't know if that's the technical term, but they weren't the size they were supposed to be, the grasses. And so they're ordering those to come out, new ones to come in. So we've been pretty pleased with their administration and pretty pleased with Davy's work, so.
Yeah, the reason I asked that question is because, I drove through there the other day, and it was tough to tell what's been done as part of phase one and what's in phase two. It did look like the trees have been cleared and the medians
Yeah.
have been cleared, but I couldn't tell what's been planted in place, and it looks like a lot of new stuff has not yet been planted.
Well, so one of the things, let me try to zoom in on this a little bit. This area, generally speaking, let's say from the mid-block crossing on Manassas Drive, westbound to Bank Street to where the bank is, all we did was remove everything that was there, because we have the reverse angle parking that's being designed that, as it stands now, will go there. And so what we didn't want to do was spend a bunch of money, plant a bunch of trees and bushes and that we're just going to tear out. So what you'll begin to see is what has been planted. There have been a few trees just to the east of the mid-block crossing. There have been a couple trees, this shows 3 of them on the plan, that have been planted at the next building of Park 170. You'll see in the median strips, at this location, there have been some low-grow grasses planted in there, but nothing adjacent to City Hall and nothing in the City Hall median at this time. So,
Okay.
all right. And to the naked eye, honestly, going from what we had to what we have now, it looks sparse. It doesn't look like there's a ton of new plants there. But I can share the plan with you. Well, you guys have but I can share the entire PDF of the plan, and there is a fairly significant number of plants and grasses that have gone in. So phase 2 will come next, and then we're going to be looking to revise this for the reverse angle parking, the landscape plan. We'll be in here all morning. We're doing a sign program for the city. This is a really exciting project. This was kind of the third goal, if you will, of the Complete Streets project, was that we needed to build on the branding that we had done a couple years ago in the city, 3 years ago, and really make Park Central a destination, which is the goal, but making sure people actually have the signage and have the wayfinding to get here. So anyone that's traveling up 28 that may not know Manassas Park or may not know downtown, Park Central is there. Eventually we'll see signage out there, and they'll also see signage for the city's points of interest, and we're incorporating the branding into this. Really cool project. So I've never done a sign project before. I've reviewed signs, but I've never actually worked on designing them. So we're working on developing a policy and an application internally. We have a draft of that. The governing body authorized us to do so. Believe you all will probably be seeing that when it's done. We hired a local company named Sign Graphics to assist us with the design, well, to do the design, because we don't do the design, but the types of signs that we'll see are city gateway signs. Yeah, as of right now, if you see Welcome to Manassas Park, you'll see the older gray, or the older green sign that says, leave Prince William County, enter City of Manassas Park, which is, you may see those in rural areas in the middle of nowhere, which is fine. But as you enter City of Manassas, you'll see their nice LED sign. Prince William County does a good job with some of their gateway signs. Other local, smaller cities as well. So we're going to have the same thing. It's just a matter of time. We're doing a couple gateway LED signs. We're looking at then doing also, do I have anything else here? Nope. We're looking at doing 2 gateway Welcome to Manassas Park. We're looking at doing 2 gateway static gateway. So just the monument style sign, Welcome to Park Central, as you come down Euclid and as you approach the track. So, give that defined space of Park Central, with the recognition it needs. Then we're also going to have, as I mentioned, the green signs will be city points of interest. So if you're on 28, you may see a left arrow, community center. You may see a right arrow, VRE, City Hall, Park Central Library. But then you'll also see the blue signs, which are a bit of a play on the VDOT highway signs, but we're going to make them look nice. But we're still going to advertise or allow businesses to advertise on those signs when some of the bigger anchor tenants arrive. So again, we're in the middle of phase 2. We've done some site visits. I have gotten a draft of some of the mock-ups. We've sent back comments. We reviewed this with staff, and then hopefully by later this year, phase 2, those designs will be wrapped up, and then we'll go out to bid. We're hoping that some signs will start going up spring of next year. And we are pursuing a grant that could, it's called Our Town. It's through the National Endowment of the Arts. We're hoping that can match us up to $150K for wayfinding. So some of this may hold until July 1st of next year, but it's still not that far off time-wise. So more to follow on this, and I'm sure Mickey will make sure we get you guys a copy of the designs as they become more official.
Where would the gateway signs go?
Pardon?
The gateway signs, where would they go?
Right now, we're looking, in an ideal world, as you come up 28, ideally, we would put it in the median. As you're approaching Manassas Drive and the intersection with 28, but there's no electric currently in the median. So in order to do that, and we're looking at it, it may be cost prohibitive given the budget that we have. We would have to bore under 28 with electrical, or run an above ground connection from near Connor Drive to the median, which would then have a freestanding meter base. And so it's kind of, what's the lesser of two evils? So that may go on the right-hand side of the road and kind of be angled towards the lane of traffic as you come in. Again, in an ideal world, it'd be in the median, but it looks like it may end up on the right-hand side. The other Welcome to Manassas Park sign, if you're coming southbound on 28, as you pass Joe's Pizza, on the right, there's that little berm, and open space near the shopping center. That's where the other one will go. And then the Park Central signs, there'll be one as you just come over the railroad tracks, and then there'll be another one as you come down from Euclid. That's Welcome to Park Central.
Thank you.
There's actually 31 locations that Abdul and I went out and with Bud, Donald Jenkins from Public Works, and with the sign contractor, and kind of looked for the ideal locations. Generally speaking, and they're doing the engineering analysis, misutility coordination to make sure they can go where we thought they might go. And then the complete street study again kind of gave us these initial locations. And I should have mentioned Wallace Montgomery is the firm that did the complete streets for us, and they've worked with us on a number of projects. Here's the reverse Angle parking, we talked a little bit enough about this, I think. Kicked off the meeting today. AdTech was awarded this. They'll be doing the engineering plans to construct these spaces. We'll also be doing a site plan revision for Park 170 eventually, but we should have some design, what did we say, 6 months? Give it maybe 6 months. So they need to do some survey work. They're doing some subsurface utility evaluation to kind of see what's here underneath the surface, and then they'll be preparing the plans. I'm going to try to start moving a little bit here. Park Central VRE Garage, I mean, you see it every week you come, there's more and more development, and more of the garage is complete. The expansion has just been incredible. There's actually a time-lapse video, if you click that link on the bottom of the project page, that you can see the site development occurring. It's usually a couple days late, but you can start to see the garage itself coming out of the ground, and I mean, we see it almost every day here, so that's an awesome project. $35 million, and about 8.6 of that we got through grant money, so that's a huge win for the city. Initially, we were looking at contract completion in January of 2026, but they're about 6 months ahead of schedule, conservatively. Now, things can happen, you never know, but we're hoping by the middle of next year, this thing is gonna be fully ready to go. I mentioned the earmark, congressionally directed spending request. We submitted that to our senators, Kane, Warner, and Representative Wexton. Representative Wexton did submit this to the Appropriations Committee. So what we're hoping to do is, where we didn't have money to carry out some of these complete streets improvements, we included it in the earmark request. It's kind of like a little bit of gap money to handle a lot of the things that we didn't get funded through HSIP, through other sources of revenue. So this would be some additional pedestrian street lights. We included the reverse angle parking, additional pavement markings, and then the sidewalks that have not yet been completed. We included those. As you know, the Phase 4 development, I'm sure you all are familiar with that. That's going on. We've got the 150, well, the plan is going on. 150 surface lot parking spaces is there. We've talked about possibly hourly parking. Not a lot of guidance on that just yet. And then resurfacing Manassas Drive is kind of the end-all, be-all, if you will, of once every piece of the development is done, we want to come back in, resurface the road, put these markings in, and there we go. So other priority projects from city manager governing body, citizen outreach. We need to really put together a program sooner than later for outreach to the public. How do we use this hawk signal? One of the alternatives we're thinking about is doing a kind of how-to video. Some localities have done that. May or may not do that. I know our mayor had wanted us to do some outreach for HSIP, how to use crosswalks properly. I think it's a great idea. I think we definitely need to do something. You can never assume people know how to use a crosswalk. So we need to put something together before we actually go out to bid for the hawk signal. So that's in the works. We're updating our transportation website. This is another really cool project. Our transportation page eventually will have an embedded map, a GIS map, that you can hover the mouse over and click on, let's say, a segment of a road, and it'll pop up a dialog box that says, these 2 or 3 studies have been completed. Click on it, it'll take you to the project page, it'll take you to the plan, etc. So it's going to be an interactive tool that's public facing. That'll be on the transportation page, and we think that could dovetail into, obviously, our other pages in the city, parks, any other page really. Pretty major project. Dominion is rebuilding its line 2011 from Clifton to Winters Branch. It goes right through the city of Manassas, right through Manassas Park. This isn't taking out structures and putting in new structures. It's really just updating the infrastructure, the wires themselves. The lines. The structures are going to remain. We're working diligently with them because they will be accessing through the VRE surface lot to do some of this work. As you know, the garage is going to have a pedestrian bridge and an elevator that goes over to the surface lot. So that's been kind of high up there and making sure we coordinate with them. They're also going to be doing work in Blooms because, as you guys know, the utilities run along the tracks. So they're trying to go directly through Blooms. They do have a public meeting coming up, actually. I want to say it's on 7/11, July 11th, I think. But it's over in, Mickey, I'll make sure I get some of that information to you. It's, gosh, what is that event center on Mathis Avenue called?
Salisbury?
Yes, that's exactly where it's going to be. And it's July 11th, I want to say, from 5 to 7 or 7 to 9. I'll make sure we get you the information if you're interested. But basically, they're doing this to make sure the Northern Virginia region, outside of Manassas Park, but into Prince William, into Fairfax, and eventually all the way up, has the capacity for additional data center development, more or less. But they need to go through Bloom, so we're very hopeful that Dominion is willing to help us on the way out, resurface some of the trails that obviously they're going to need to access. We're going to be taking over a stormwater BMP as well for them, some maintenance. So we are in the process of creating a couple of agreements or letters of understanding, because they do have easements, so they have rights to kind of do the work as they need. But they have already verbally agreed that they would help us out some with resurfacing some of the trail system. So that's great. And that'll in turn save the city money because that's been in our budget. I know it got pushed back, but that's going to be a big win for Jay and Parks. This may be new to you, I'm not sure, but we did a feasibility study that looked at extending the southern part of Connor Drive. Maybe we mentioned this before, I'm not sure, but CIP, okay. We looked at 3 alternatives: an at-grade crossing, a tunnel, and an overpass, effectively. The cheapest is, of course, the at-grade crossing, but it doesn't solve all the issues if there was an issue on the tracks and we needed to get emergency services from the west side of the city to the east side, which that's the biggest concern, really. A secondary goal is this essentially could serve as a mini bypass, if you will. People coming from Route 28, now that the northern end of Connor is connected, could turn onto Connor and come straight downtown. And maybe there will be a traffic circle, maybe they won't. This is all planning level concept, but they could be immediately downtown and not have to worry about going to Manassas Drive and bypass some of that. Conversely, traffic coming from Blooms that wants to get to 28 doesn't have to go through downtown. If there's a large event, if you know something else is going on, the train stopped, et cetera, they can shoot on the bypass and go up. So we did do a very generic feasibility study. We found some grant resources. I want to say this project had a $32 million price tag for construction, quite steep, but considering we may get the $40 million for the Route 28 project, you know, funds are out there, and this did get included in transaction. So by the time we construct it, it'll probably be twice that much, but you know, hopefully the budget will have also increased for some of our funding partners. Regular transportation projects. This is kind of where, when I first started, these were some of what was dropped in my lap, and they've been done. So kudos to the team, Public Works, everyone else that I've worked with, and both the engineer and the contractors. But we reconstructed Upper Kent, new water and sewer laterals, new curb and gutter, new sidewalk, and it was full depth reconstruction. So for the temporary headache it was to the residents, you know, we had to make some accommodations, you know, halfway through. It was in the winter, a lot of the work. We got it done, and gosh, it was probably 8 months we finished this project once we actually got it under construction contract. And we're pretty much closing everything out with VDOT. It's under warranty. We will do a walk in the fall. We have a 12-month warranty on all the work. So we'll do a walk, we'll do a punch list. If anything, the contractor will be responsible for it. Then we'll release, we're holding 5% retainage, then we'll release that. Same thing with Connor Drive. That was a huge, huge win for the city. Just getting that connected to Route 28, complete under warranty. I'm sure most of you have probably seen it. We're able to add some additional on-street parking, entirely new sidewalk segment, new curb and gutter. The city did some repairs on the northern side of Connor Drive that weren't originally part of the project. We fixed some curb and gutter, added some sidewalk. We're coordinating right now with the county, because if you're on Route 28, as you approach Connor Drive, you'll see Manassas Drive next, or turn right, or Manassas Drive with a right arrow. That's actually before Connor Drive. So unless you're familiar with the area, you may try to slam on the brakes and think that's Manassas Drive. We realize that. Unfortunately, the sign is in Prince William County proper, and so any sign that needs to go up on 28 in the county has to get VDOT authorization. So that's a bit of a process. We appreciate working with VDOT and having them review it. It's a little more stringent and a little more bureaucratic than our process might be, but that's under review right now. So what we're going to end up doing is having a Connor Drive sign essentially in the place of the Manassas Drive sign, move the Manassas Drive sign up to the median. It seems like it should just be, hey guys, Public Works made these signs for us, let's put them in. But you know, we respect VDOT's process, so we're doing it that way, the right way. Corridor Route 28, the Innovative Intersections Project. I'm pretty sure you all have heard plenty about this. Right now, Phase 1 from Manassas Drive to Spruce Street was funded $25 million. That's in the design or pre-design phase. We just had our public information meeting here at City Hall not too long ago. I'll be preparing a pre-app, or I've done a pre-app. We'll be preparing the full application for Smart Scale for another roughly $2.5 million. That predominantly is a result of utility costs and potential right-of-way that needs to be acquired upwards towards that Volkswagen dealership up on 28. We're looking to do a turnaround right there, and some of that may be acquired, so clearly there's cost there. VDOT has done a project webpage. I encourage you guys to take a look. We did the public engagement meeting on the 2nd at 7 p.m. We had some good comments. VDOT's compiled those. The tentative schedule right now is to complete the design in the middle of next year. Design build contract would be executed in 26 and then constructed in 27. And then the $40 million, I mentioned the Phase 2. We're hoping that this can just roll right into Phase 2. The final Phase 2 would run from Spruce Street all the way to Orchard Bridge, which is, pretty much just in front of the Sheets leading back into the Orchard Bridge apartments. Then the final piece would be Orchard Bridge to the Fairfax line. And if that's said and done, it's going to be a very nice improvement and shave a good several minutes off of that time that it would take from get to Manassas Drive to the Fairfax line. City paving program, that's some of our regular work that we do. We're right now paving several roads in the city. We had some leftover funding in FY24, so we wanted to try to put that to use. We've got, I'll have to get you the list that we're doing. I didn't bring that along with me, but we have, I want to say 6 or 7 streets or street segments we're doing right now. Actually, the work's complete. I take that back. We did a patch on Manassas Drive in front of the railroad. We did the Euclid Avenue patch at Owens. 4 or 5 other streets. I can get you the list if you'd like to see them, but that's been completed. Then FY25, our program, that was authorized by the governing body. The work's going to commence this fall. We have had about $485,000 worth of resurfacing money. We're going to use all of it, but we've accounted for the majority of it right now. Abdul's been working with Branscombe to get that agreement in place. Again, Fugro, that was 2 years ago that the company Fugro came in and did the automated road analyzer, used LiDAR, ground penetrating radar, some 3D technology to assess. I mean, there had to have been like 100 different data points it assessed when it looked at the road distress, cracking. Again, a little above my head, but it spits out a pavement condition index from 0 to 100, giving you the pavement condition of a specific road segment. And we've been basing our road work on that. We've been using that as a start, but then also going in the field, windshield surveys, and also citizen input and complaints. In the last 2 years, certain roads have deteriorated faster than others, so there may be some question, well, why this road that's a 20 and not this road that's a 19? We rely heavily on our public works guys. They're all out in the field every day. They know the condition of the road to the naked eye. So that's the way we've been handling that. We may do a new data gathering effort in FY25. I mentioned the concrete improvements. So they finished east side. They are starting the west side, and that's actually this week. I mentioned the traffic calming, the speed humps in Blooms towards the end near Arnie. Construct those this fiscal year or the road diet. We're going to bring both alternatives back. We did have the direction to go ahead with the speed humps, but we wanted to also, we got some direction to look into a road diet, and it wouldn't make sense to do both. So we're going to bring those back. If we
Could
can
you
get it.
define road diet?
Sure. Road diet, if you think of, if you think of Manassas Drive in Blooms, and you can envision the width of the travel lanes. Right now, the width of those travel lanes encourages higher speed because how wide they are. A road diet essentially looks to shrink the travel lanes by a couple feet to maybe they end up being 12 versus they were 14 before. 12 feet, 2 lanes, and then may provide a bike lane or may shift it to 11. They may put pavement markings in and then have a dedicated bike lane on the shoulder as opposed to just having 14 or 15 foot wide travel lanes, no bike lane, no real pavement markings, which, you know, if you guys pass through Carondelet, I know, you know, that's your neck of the woods. As you pass Carondelet, there's just, I'm guilty of it. You get through Carondelet, it's like, all right, like it opens up. And what we found was that 4-lane or that divided section was the area with more speeding. That's the area we're gonna look at. So potentially from Carondelet through that 4-lane section is where we're gonna look at the road diet to allow for bicyclists. And okay, we have a new traffic signal coming in. We actually are just receiving some questions this afternoon. Questions were due tomorrow for a design task order request that we released to all of our on-calls. Abdul's running on this one, and bids are going to be due. Well, we released it on the 30th. Bids are due next Thursday, I believe. And this is for design. For designing the mast arm. It'll look something like that. Again, that looks ominous and a bit overbearing, but again, we want to make it somewhat decorative. This is the intersection at Polk. When you approach, you'll see it's probably about a 7-foot tall, single pole, kind of an old school style traffic signal. Nothing hangs over the road. The study that we looked at a span wire concept that would have, you'd have a lot of the taut span wires coming from different wooden poles. We looked at a wooden pole solution that would have a signal coming across, and then we looked at the mast arm. The mast arm was the recommended alternative from the engineer. The governing body authorized it, so we're going to go to design. They did a planning study again, Wallace Montgomery. We released it a design. It's going to be designed, and then hopefully we'll go out to bid this summer. And that was out to bid for the construction later this summer. That was a big safety concern along the corridor because many people that aren't familiar with the city don't know that there's a stoplight there and blow right through it. So that's something we did.
Is this gonna include pedestrian improvements?
Yes, so this is going to be also, we're going to incorporate this into the HSIP design. That's a very good question. So the HSIP design, Wallace Montgomery's doing the HSIP design, and they also did this initial planning study. So what we're going to do is incorporate the engineering design. I don't know yet who will get that. Incorporate the engineering design into the HSIP. The HSIP itself had recommendations for this intersection of crosswalk improvements, high visibility, additional signage for pedestrians, ADA improvements, and there will be signalization for the pedestrians on the actual signal. So,
In
okay.
defense of VDOT, just I worked for the Federal Highway Administration for 19 years, and
Awesome.
VDOT definitely gets quite a bit of money from FHWA on an annual basis, so I can understand how if you, the
Yeah.
city doesn't have to deal with the federal side very often, whereas VDOT is always dealing with the
Absolutely.
federal side there. So just in VDOT's defense, I thought I'd add for that.
No, I appreciate that. And, you know, we like to take advantage of federal funding wherever we can. But we also like the autonomy to own our own roads and maintain our own roads because, you know, we still get funding directly from NVTA and VDOT to do those sorts of things. And we don't have to worry about going through the rigorous process of review and meeting certain requirements, with the caveat that if we get federal grant money,
Yes.
we have to abide by every federal, exactly. And, oh yeah, no, we're gonna be actually, this isn't on here, but preparing a RFP for consultant services for federally authorized projects, federal funding.
Nice.
We need a series of on-call contractors for that, because as what we've done in the past is basically go out to bid RFP for consultant services on an individual project basis. I'd rather have a handful at my disposal. Same thing with construction, federal construction firms that have been qualified through the feds that we can put to work on, now that we're getting federal money on these federal projects. So that's great.
Cool.
And I certainly appreciate that. And this is kind of where we're at with grants, and then I'm gonna step aside because I've talked long enough, or I'll take any questions certainly. Long story short, there's a number, everything in green we've gotten. This is a tad bit dated because some of these we have been technically awarded and they're not green yet. But we had applied for 100, and then that 58 million at the top there, that's a bit of an outlier. That skews everything, obviously. So let's just take that out. We've applied for, $125 million worth of grant money, and we've gotten about 40. But the good thing is gonna be is that 40 million NVTA, that phase 2, that 40 million. So if you say we've done 125 in requests, you can add, assuming it gets approved, 40 million here, and we're gonna be right at about 80 million. So 80 million out of 125 million in requests is pretty good. And these are huge. This capital assistance, this was through DRPT, Department of Rail and Public Transportation, 6.1 million. Incredible that we were able to get that funded to help with the garage. Same thing with this commuter choice. That was NVTC, Northern Virginia Transportation Commission. 2.5 million for the garage, so that's the $8.6 million in grant money that if we didn't get, based on agreements that we have with VRE, the city would have had to find a way to come up with. So lots of good stuff going on, and that is the transportation program. All right.
Thank you.
Just one really quick question.
Sure.
For the sidewalk on, I'm sorry, was it Manassas Drive, so crossing like the railroad?
Yes.
What's the time frame to complete it? It's slide 6.
Yep. Slide 6, that would be the transportation alternative project. Excuse me. So the segment that we were awarded funding for is the one on the PowerPoint. If you see the right side there, excuse me, that's going to connect to the current sidewalk where it stops, all the way down to Railroad Drive. That funding is actually, it's been recommended, it's been essentially approved by the Transportation Planning Board, I want to say it is. It's in the 6-year plan for VDOT, it just has to get approved in the budget. So it's already been approved, voted on by the TPB as a project that's going to get funded. It's a matter of the budget getting through, and then we will get the funding. We need to do an agreement with VDOT. Timeline is that we will start design probably October, assuming the agreement works out. They'll start design October of this year. This is federal money, by the way. The transportation alternative set aside, it is federally through VDOT. So we do need to do an agreement, but we'll do it with VDOT. We've asked VDOT to administer it. Again, because we don't have the engineer lined up right now, and I'd rather not have to go through that procurement process. So we'll use a VDOT on-call. Volkert did the preliminary work that fed into the application, so hopefully maybe they'll be the ones that get it. Design starts in October, hopefully. Design would be finished by the spring to summer of next year, and then we'd go to construction.
Okay, thank you.
You got it. All right, anything you want, any documents, any plans, I'm happy to provide. All right?
Thank you for the detailed presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Very good. So with that, we have 7B, a discussion, desired elements for the comprehensive plan update.
Thank you, Chairman. My name is Michelle Berry. I'm the Planning and Zoning Administrator for the city. I think Steve provided a good intro into this discussion. It is budgeted, although the budget has yet to be approved as of now. I think that will happen over the next few weeks, the fiscal year 25 budget. We do have funding for a comprehensive plan update for next fiscal year, so I thought this would be a good idea to start the discussion. If there's any desires or needs you as planning commissioners have that you want us to look at from a land use perspective that maybe has not been addressed before, or is just a special interest that you may have. I was just trying to get some ideas of what you would like to see at least analyzed or looked at as part of the process. I am also interested in your concerns or ideas about community engagement and how many public meetings we should have. Part of the plan process is to really engage the community. We certainly have a lot of working families here who don't have a lot of time, so possibilities would may go to some of these community events or even some type of religious service to get more afterwards, to get more opinions and input from our residents. So I'm trying to think out of the box, but any kind of ideas as we're, once we receive the funding and try to draft the RFP, that we capture some of the desires of the commission. I did provide some background that identified areas where we certainly need to update our plan, and transportation is definitely one of them. We did actually, as Steve said, update it a few years ago, which was one of the chapters that were more recent than others, but we are doing so many projects now, it needs to be done again and have a lot of these studies, or at least the concepts of them, to be put in the plan. I mean, we really need to have that in our future land use plan, especially even for funding purposes as well. So I don't know if any of the commissioners have some input at this time. We could certainly think about it. I mean, I don't know when we're going to release the RFP for bid, but certainly this is going to be on our watch in the next few months.
So with respect to the RFP, will that be drafted so at some point we would have a chance to see what that is, or is that how would that work?
I think there's, I don't know. From my understanding, there's kind of procurement rules about that, and I don't know if board members can really look at that fine detail.
Sure.
But I'll defer to the attorney on that. I think really it's more of trying to, gather the concepts and then make sure that they're in the request that we.
Because your point about the public participation process or public engagement, that should be, I would think, a part of the
Oh, absolutely.
RFP, no
yes,
question.
absolutely.
And just based upon the demographic data that we may already have of our residents, that I like what I'm hearing about being as specific as possible to the needs of our residents. Charrettes or regularly held certain meetings that are held at certain places can be used, but then again, any number of our residents may not either find out about it or have the time to attend it during the times that that are provided. So definitely, if there are
Right,
events
and
that we do.
I do want to iron that out. Sometimes we have kind of missed some meetings that I would have liked the planning commission to be at least a part of. So I'm really going to make sure that we do capture the amount of meetings and work sessions, because once chapters or specific parts of the plan are drafted, of course, we're going to have to come back to you to get your input. And I'd like to do that, in pieces instead of the one whole plan. That's a
Right.
bit of more of a task to do it that way. And then hopefully gather more agreements, so then when the full plan comes to you and advertised, it would be a smooth approval process.
Now, thank you for sort of the leadership of the city to really work to find the resources to get this done. I think in terms of community engagement, definitely making use of sort of like both sides of the city.
Correct.
Using the community center
Mhm.
as a gathering place and finding ways to incentivize participation would be helpful. And I think also sort of modal ways of participation through sort of surveys, community events, sort of drop-in opportunities. I would also say sort of making sure that it is in anything that's written, of course, is in multiple languages.
Yes.
And I think, being sort of broad and getting the best sort of opportunities through the procurement process is probably sort of best, but that's up to you guys and how you sort of do this. I would think that one of the things I'd be really interested in from a planning perspective, though, is how do we limit people who live here at all, driving into sort of the new downtown area, right? There'll be limited parking, even though there's sort of more parking, making the community more bikeable. I like the idea of like these sort of e-scooters and e-bikes that people might be able to rent, but also bike lanes and making it sort of easier to transit sort of through the city for residents who are capable and willing to do so.
Okay, great.
I would second and third that I think the public outreach is very important on this, and I would encourage you to have a number of meetings with the population to get their views and opinions. I also wanted to ask too, I think certainly any update to the comprehensive plan would need to rely on the most recent data and information that we have. And to that extent, I see there's a number of studies that are still ongoing or underway, like the demographics update, which I think is quite important because we're working off of 2004 demographics information, largely based on the 2000 census, is my
That's right.
understanding.
Yes.
Right, so I
Definitely needs to
think
be updated.
it's important to get that new demographic information, or at least the latest and greatest information, so that the plan is well informed.
Well, and to me, that would be one of the first work sessions we have as a commission to have that background data. Who's here, what are their needs, what are their desires, what do they want out of their community, what public services do they need or wish to have. So absolutely, that certainly is necessary, and that is going to be certainly a component of the plan. Now, you mentioned other studies, so we are gathering some other data and demographic data, which I've seen in the housing needs assessment. So that could also play a role in it. But you're absolutely right that it's woefully out of date. Here we come. It's going to be 2030 before we know it. So, they do the decennial census. Of course, they do updates with the community survey.
Well,
But
there were challenges with the 2020 census
Correct.
for a number of reasons. And so, yes, I was going to say the American Community Survey on an annual basis, maybe more urban area, but still it's much more up to date and available. And like you're saying, we're coming up on the mid-decade already.
That's right,
Even
yes.
with the 2020 census data not necessarily being as reliable as it might be. So I'm with all of us here about making sure we have the most appropriate data that's available to reach out to our residents.
I guess one also question, did you want to do like a 20-year, 25-year, or, 30-year in the future? I mean, we've seen other plans and programs of 2050. We can limit to 2024. I mean, that's one of the items. Usually plans are 20 or 25 years. But, I mean, that will be 2050, right? So
Yeah, and it depends
that's
on the
probably
update process that goes with it. So I mean,
correct.
if it's gonna be pretty much self-contained for a period of time, then that's one thing. But if there are gonna be segments of time where we'll have an opportunity to look at it either incrementally or every 5 or 10 years to see how we're doing with, aspects
Right.
of it, we can go longer with it, as long as we've got the ability to look at it in periodic bites.
Yeah, I believe it is important to go out longer, 20, 25 years, because otherwise you're not informed on what to do with areas like, the complete eastern side, the old golf course land in Manassas Park, which is, what do we do with that land? Do we keep it strictly as parkland? Do we try to develop it but keep it somewhat parkland? How do we work that land over time? It's a tremendous asset for Manassas Park, but what do we do with it? And that's why I think you have to take a longer view, because you need to look out long enough so that you know, okay, what's happening with Park Center and how does that impact the city? And then, okay, what about the eastern side, the old golf course land? How does that impact the city?
With the opportunity to reconsider if we need to, based upon what may come up in between. So
Right.
yes, definitely a longer term is great if we have the ability to be flexible and have a look at it periodically.
Right.
Well, and just on your note, Commissioner Petak, that, we do have aging housing stock, especially in the middle of the city. It might be worthwhile to know when that housing outlives its usefulness and it would be a potential for redevelopment. Those are things that should be thought of as we move forward with this plan.
Absolutely.
And I think to that point, also considering sort of the aging population, sort of what happens to people, what about affordable housing?
Correct.
Sort of all of those sort of things really require sort of a long view.
Yes, I agree.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
That do you for now there. Thank you for bringing it forward to us, and we're very much excited. Commissioner Beckett said it, and I know Commissioner Petak is, and the rest of us, to have that infusion of funds towards it from the city is outstanding.
I can tell you on the staff side, we're excited as well.
Well, that's
So,
great.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to this opportunity to update the plan.
We
so.
definitely, as a city, deserve a vibrant and up-to-date
We do.
CIP there.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
That's great, thank you. Right. If no other questions, then, thank you very much for that this evening. We appreciate it.
Great. So we're moving on to the next agenda item?
Yes, sure. If we're good, I don't see any other questions or comments. So please, yes, informational update from community development staff.
Right, I just have 3. As Steve mentioned, the housing needs assessment study, along with the Manassas Drive lighting study, should be ready for presentation next month in July. So staff is anticipating a joint meeting between the governing body and the planning commission, so both bodies can hear those presentations at the same time. It's tentative at this point, but once we solidify that, I certainly will, get that information and dates out to you. And then just a note that we did have a grand opening for Little Bowl, which is one of the new restaurants in the downtown. As we keep seeing all this new construction and new development, we are getting in some new businesses. There are several that are also coming, like a donut shop and a ice cream store, a comic book store, and is there another one? I mean, I think,
Tortino
and,
Mart.
right, and a restaurant at one of the NCAP units at Park 170. So things are moving along. We certainly have had a lot of help with our economic development through one of our contractors. So we're excited that he's, if you will, working his magic to make all these new businesses come in. We are going to also have like a more coffee lounge. I think it's Peruvian. Is it Peruvian coffee? So things are moving on that side of Manassas Drive. So hopefully we can get and see more activity over there. So I just wanted to let you know that those things are moving. And we're really happy to see him as a staff and community.
Just quick question. If the garage is finished early,
Mm-hmm.
is there the potential for development over here? Like, I recall, and maybe things have changed since it's been a bit, but like the movie theater was going to wait until the garage was up, and other places were thinking about sort of waiting until the garage sort of was finished. Is there the potential for those projects to be accelerated if the garage finishes ahead of schedule?
Well, that's a tough question to answer. I think there's negotiations still going on with the theater in terms of, the development schedule and financing. So I don't know if that would accelerate it. I do agree with you that once the garage is built, that should generate more interest for businesses in the downtown, because there will be certainly additional parking. But I don't know if things would move up. I suspect from an new business perspective, I think we could get more businesses, local businesses interested in moving in once that is completed.
Thank you.
And then lastly, I'd like to introduce or say that we do have an intern in our Development Services Community Development Department. His name's Kyle Petak. So have a situation there where hopefully he will attain some knowledge with our internship, and we are very happy to have him. He's working on some projects, one that we haven't started yet, but it is our development fee schedule. We need to update that again, and so the last time was really with the larger effort was 2018. Certainly costs have gone up, and so that was one of his major tasks for us. So we can, and I think we want to bring it effective in January, maybe the third fiscal, the quarter for 2025. So that would be great. I just wanted to mention that we're happy to have him, and hopefully he will enjoy it as much as we are with having him.
Welcome.
Welcome indeed. Was going to give Commissioner Petak the opportunity to say a few words if he wished to. You do have the floor for the moment if you want.
No, welcome.
Anything we need now before we go here tonight?
Do good work.
Okay, very good, excellent. You come well recommended, very good, nice to have you. Very good. That's cool, very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion, second?
Second.
Second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously, the time is 8:25.